Hi, welcome to the Sifu Mimi Chan show. Thanks for joining the conversation. Hello, Chip. Thanks so much for joining me on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Oh my goodness. Well, last time, it's been a while actually, was
Yeah.
the reunion between you and Matt, not a reunion, but the wrapping up of Sex Criminals, and it was really nice to have you both on.
And I haven't spoken to him since.
Yeah, lies. I saw you were with him
Oh,
earlier
yeah.
this month, actually.
It's true. Yeah, I was visiting the Godzilla set.
That must have been really cool.
Yeah, but no Godzilla. Apparently he's all CG now. Like,
It's
what's
so
up with that?
disappointing. The rubber suit guy, like the big model, wasn't there.
No, yeah, I was expecting just like a guy in a suit smoking a cigarette, but nope, it's all computers.
Was there at least like a cutout that you could, go next to? Like,
No,
I was there on set with Godzilla.
there's a lot of debris, which I liked. Like they
Ah,
built all this debris. I'm like, oh, that's cool,
okay.
because like it's clearly been destroyed by, I'm assuming, a Godzilla. I didn't ask for spoilers. So the effects of Godzilla were felt on set.
Of course, of
Nice.
course.
Yeah.
I know. I can imagine, like, back in the day, going to like the Godzilla sets must have been just like really insane. And then now it's like, oh, you want to
Yeah.
see Godzilla? Come over here. Look at this monitor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But back then it's like you're walking through these tiny cities.
Hmm.
Like it'd be so cool. Oh well.
Yes, definitely. Because
Yeah.
then you would feel like Godzilla.
Yeah, which is all I've ever wanted.
And how is how is our good friend Matt?
Good. I mean, it's stressful. Like it was
Yeah.
stressful being there and just watching how much work goes into a production like that.
Yeah.
And Matt's like, he's not in charge, but he's kind of in charge. And so he's just from the moment he gets up to the moment he goes to bed, it's just like he's all about that project. So
Hmm.
like it was exhausting actually just kind of following him around, and I wasn't doing anything, and even still I was like, oh my God, this is a lot of work. Weird.
Well, you're so empathetic, and so it's just
Yeah, that's gotta be it.
you
But it was
feel
like, wow, this is a lot of work. I'm out of here. Fuck it. Bye. My empathy extends only so far.
Oh gosh, not at
Yeah.
all. Well, I have to say I reached out one because obviously you are doing so many incredible things in the comics world, and again, this is actually not a comics podcast, but because I
Yeah.
love comics, I happen to talk to a lot of amazing creators like
Yeah.
yourself. I'm like, how can I selfishly talk to the people I want to talk to? I'll
Yeah.
have a podcast, and
Brilliant.
yeah, but essentially I am like loving your chip class, and
Oh God, yeah.
I was like, oh, I'm just gonna have to reach out now and just ask him, like, what's going on. How how did this come to be? And because I know a bit about production, and it's work. I know that you
Yeah.
are. It's a lot
Yeah.
of work, actually.
Yeah, it's funny because it kind of came about because like I started my newsletter at Substack,
Hmm.
and I got this deal through them. It was like a grant program, and a bunch of other comic creators got the same thing. And it's funny watching what the comic creators did with that year of like grant money. Um, Most of us, we put out a bunch of comics, paid creators to make things that maybe wouldn't get published otherwise.
Yeah.
And then a lot of people were like, well, how do I fill the space? Well, I'll just talk about the process. And so there's so many creators doing like videos about like how to write comics or draw comics.
I see.
And they're all good, but
Of
they're
course.
also just like, they're usually just a dude talking to a camera on his phone or whatever. I'm just like, all right, maybe we could do something that's has some higher production values, but also just kind of take the piss out of it all just a little bit. Yeah, because again, no shade to any of my fellow creators doing these, because like people love them, and I've
Right.
I've been on the their video streams and stuff talking comics
Yes,
and
yes, yes.
how to make them, but also I was like, well, for the most part, all anyone ever wants to know is how do I get to write Batman. Um, And so I really like the idea of kind of creating something that felt like high production values, that also gave almost no information.
Oh, it gives a lot of information.
It does. Maybe not the right information, but it's somehow in there. There's also like weird nuggets of truth, which is always my favorite kind of jokes.
Yeah,
So
well,
yeah,
you tend to be very satirical, but like to the nth degree. But
yeah,
there's, like you said, is at the bare bones of it, there is truth. It's just you have a very fun way of presenting things, and I
yeah.
love that in the Substack. I love that in these videos, and
Oh, thanks.
yeah, it's got to be fun, and
Yeah,
like you said, there's different variances of ways to learn, and but I
yeah,
was like, wow, this is an investment, because I was like,
yeah. I
this is
know.
high production. This
Yeah, it was a lot
is
of
a
work.
lot of
Like
work.
back in the day, I used to work for a newspaper, and
Hmm.
as with all newspapers 10 years ago, the mandate was we got to pivot to video, pivot to video. Like everyone's
I
just like, oh,
see.
video, video. So I'm like, well, all right, I'll do that. And so I started to do a series for the finance section of the paper called Finance Sense, in which I played a character named Todd Diamond, who was giving you financial advice, but is clearly down on his luck. Like his life is a wreck and he clearly doesn't have any money. So I did a bunch of those for the paper, and I love doing them. Like just very similar to Chip Class, where you just kind of like stare at the camera and like
Mhm.
kind of look a little bit sad and stumble over your words. And it was one of the most kind of fun things I did at the newspaper that didn't help anyone, and I wanted to kind of continue that here because I also realized like making comics is like on one hand it's fun because hey, look at me, I'm making comics. But on the other, it's monotonous. Like there's not a lot of variety in my day. Like I wake up, I
Mm,
sit down, I answer emails, I write, I send it in, I start on the next one. Like it's just
mhm.
kind of it's a very solitary kind of life. And so I miss kind of doing like big dumb stunt things with friends. And
Yeah.
luckily for the Chip Classic, a buddy of mine in Toronto works for an ad agency as a commercial director, and so he basically snuck us all into his office.
Ah,
And I hired a camera person, a makeup person, hair,
yeah.
like all the roles that needed filling for this. And got my buddies to kind of like do animations and stuff, and my editor, Allison, as my student,
Yeah.
very game. And yes, we shot them all. We shot three of them in one day, and we've just been kind of slowly kind of piecing them together. So the
Right.
third one should be out in a week or two. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's been a lot of fun. And I'm like, oh, maybe I don't want to do comics anymore. Maybe I just want to do dumb, funny videos. But there's no money in it, clearly, because I spent all the money on making the videos.
I mean,
Uh,
but you brought a lot of joy, I think, to people's lives, and that's very, that's valid.
well, it's funny talking to Matt about it. It feels very much like the days when we were making Sex Criminals, because if there's ever an opportunity for us to lose money, we did it. Like as long as it was funny, we
Yeah.
would do it, and we
Yes.
would just lose money all over the place doing these dumb stunts. And it's like, okay, well, at least we had fun. So I'm happy about that part.
Yes. No, it's absolutely fabulous, honestly. But I was just thinking, wow, because I'll see your Instagram, like where you just take your phone and you're doing your audition reel for Richards, and like just
Yeah,
being
yeah.
funny, and that's one thing. But I was like, wow, okay, because I like even just from the editing to, I was like, how many takes did it take you to be so pensive and looking off left, and
Well,
I just loved it.
those takes
Those
were easy.
they came
The
naturally to you.
Yeah, but memorizing lines I can't do. Like my memory's so
Ah,
bad.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'd stumble a lot. Whereas Allison, who played my student, she nailed them every single time. And she'd have like the long monologues and like she just get it in one take. And it turns out like she used to do operate like ghost tours in Toronto where she had to
Ah,
memorize
okay,
like
yeah, and then
all
you have
the
to memorize
facts and stuff.
the stories,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, she's the pro.
Yeah. It's fantastic. You're both really, 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 really
Oh,
good, and
thanks.
I really enjoyed them. So I'm glad that you put them out, and
Yeah.
that you made such an investment into it. So thank you.
Yeah. I love losing money. It's great.
Well, I mean, I like I said, I noticed that you typically do take things to like the nth degree.
Yeah.
That's kind of your style. And this is only my second time talking to you, but I guess it's like all of um Matt's like world of friends, I always feel like, oh, I kind of feel like I know Chip because I feel
Aw.
like I know Matt pretty well. And
Yeah, yeah,
and then we had such a really nice conversation with sex criminals.
yeah.
And it's funny though, because I think, oh my gosh, you always put out these ideas. And I wonder, like, are there ideas you're like, oh, even this would be too crazy for comics or video? Or
No,
do
I
you go,
mean,
nope, that's pretty much, I'm gonna go all in all the time?
only because of my age.
Okay.
I get more tired quickly, and my body can't handle things. Humor for me is always either in the far extreme, like the comedic pause that lasts like an hour kind of thing,
Mm-hmm,
or
mm-hmm.
yeah, or spending too much money on a video, or in the subtle moments. And so
Right.
every once in a while, like I had one the other day, like a buddy of mine was doing do you know what Whatnot is?
Whatnot? Mm-mm.
Yeah. It's like a service where you can do live art and people bid on it in live time, real
Oh,
time.
okay. Okay.
And so I've had some comic artist friends who've been doing that and been doing quite well. Like, oh yeah, just do a
Yeah.
sketch of Spider-Man for like 10 minutes and like people bid in a frenzy and they buy it for like $500.
Ah.
I'm just like, oh, okay, wow, that's cool. But then I had the thought, I'm just like, what if I did a 24-hour Whatnot where I just went through my studio and I just pulled out every old comic and I just signed them all and auctioned everything off in my life. And like I'd be like sleeping and there'd be a guy like watching me while I slept and then I'd get up, I go to the washroom, and it's all be live on a GoPro and like and I started talking this through with a buddy and I'm just like, oh, that'd be so fun, be so funny. But I'm like, but I can't. Like I'm an adult. I can't do 24 hours. Like I could do it maybe 10 years ago. But
Yeah.
now it's like, oh no, that would kill me. So the restrictions tend to just be about um I'm just getting too old to do a lot of the dumb things. It's sad.
Oh, well, I feel like you'll find a way though, like, to do a version of that in the sense, maybe not for the
I know.
24 hours, but yeah. Yeah.
It's funny when it's 24 hours. I was telling my buddy, he's like, oh, so like 8 hours of that or whatever. I'm like, no, 24 hours. Like there'd be a live feed of me sleeping, cooking,
Right.
but I would like auction off the spatula at the end. I'd sign it and like,
Right. Right. Yeah.
yeah, my
I
wife would
think it
show up
would
in frame
actually
once in a
make,
while, being upset at me. I don't know.
yeah.
It would be good.
I can see it. I can see it.
Yeah.
Do you because I do find you, like, I always tell you, yo, you're so funny, and I'm sure everyone tells you that, whatever. But like, do you find, because your brain kind of goes through these like I guess almost like sketches in your head all the time, but do you
Yeah.
find like those are where your ideas come from, or do you draw inspiration from like the world, or do you just literally go, no, I'm writing Batman and let me like just Batman mode, or
A lot of it is like whatever can distract me from writing Batman.
okay.
Like, but it almost all happens through just chatting with friends. Like you just chat with a buddy, and then like all of a sudden, just this idea that's kind of a
Yeah.
half joke starts, and then you're just like, oh,
Hmm.
it's like stuck in my head, and like I gotta, if I don't do it, I years ago before Sex Criminals, I had one of those where um I had an idea just before bed of like some dumb, like humorous kind of erotic story section.
Hmm.
And I remember I was in bed, I was lying next to my wife, and like, and then I sat up, and she's like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "I got to do something. I'm so sorry. I got to get up. I got to do this thing." And like, I just got up, went to the other room, wrote this dumb, funny kind of erotic excerpt, and posted it online, and then came back to bed. Like, it's just like something like that. Just like I've got to do this. And then it went viral, and it became the kind of thing where I was invited out to like fucking Hollywood to like pitch animated shows based on that. I'm just like, what? Like,
Oh my
it's
gosh.
it's a weird thing. And my wife has said to me before, it's like I'm in a boat and I'm fishing, but I've got like 30 rods and I'm always
Mm.
kind of throwing them out. I just have another idea to throw this out here, throw this out there, and like almost none of them catch anything. Like it's just like a dumb one-off. And once in a while something will, and it'll just seem like, oh my God, like I can't believe I did
Yeah.
this thing and it hit. Um, so yeah, it's that kind of impulse, which I
Yeah.
I resist the impulse more now again as I'm older, just because of time
You're like, I'm
and
not getting
age.
out of bed. I'm tired.
Basically, yeah. This idea is good enough in the morning and I can remember it. All right, I'll do it.
Are
But yeah,
are are you like the type of person who does like a voice memo to remember things? Do you have like little notebooks? Do you journal? Like how do you track things, whether it's for these crazy ideas or even as you're like going through the creative process for any of your characters? Like, what's your note-taking method?
Yeah, I mean, it's a mixture. It's whatever I have on hand. Like I always try to have like a book with a
Mhm.
pen, but I always lose the pen or the book, so it's useless. Um, a lot of it will just be I'll be walking down the street and I'll have the idea and I'll just like I'll quickly like do voice to text and send myself an
Okay.
email that by the time I get the email it looks like gibberish, but
But you got
I can
it.
remember enough things in there. Yeah, yeah, because I remember like years ago, like I'm sure you've talked to Bendis
Yes.
before.
Just
Yeah,
recently, actually.
yeah, and like I remember an interview with him years ago where he talked about how he had like books everywhere. He had a book on his exercycle, his real bicycle by his bed in his office. Like, so whenever he had an idea for these characters, he just had the book handy to write it
Right.
down. Which is like I'm not quite at that level.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, usually I'm already in front of my computer, so I can just type it out.
Right. Because this is where you exist and live now.
I know, yeah, sad but true.
Oh, but that's where all the magic happens. I mean, you are a very, very busy bee these days. And
Yeah.
I always find it fascinating because I come from a very a world which is very like Chinese martial arts, and it's
Mm.
super like dedicated to one thing, right? And so I
Hmm.
don't dabble in a million different things, and it's like, okay, this is my one style, and it's also personal because it's my father's style too. And so,
Yeah.
there's lineage, and it's like very rooted, and I'm like, oh, he's working with Marvel and DC. Oh, he's here and there. I'm like,
Gasp.
oh my gosh, yeah, yeah. It's like for me when I see that,
Yeah.
and so many creators of course do that, and obviously those of you who do it successfully have great relationships everywhere. But then, like, you hear along the way all these fires and all these crazy things, and it's just
Yeah.
like, how does that feel to be like, in, I guess, two places that are technically like competitors, right? And they're just like kind of.
It's a weird one. I mean, and it kind of came about. I'm bad at commitment. Uh, don't tell my wife that, but I'm bad at
Okay.
commitment. Um, so when I first went over to Marvel, they were offering me like 3-year contracts. I think
Okay.
at one point like a 5-year contract, and I said no. I'm like, I'll do a year because I just want to see how it goes. And at the end of a year, I kind of renegotiate for another year. I've always been year to year with them. Um, because I'm doing so many other things. At the time, I was drawing Sex Criminals, which was like the
Yeah.
full-time job, and like doing my own thing. So I never kind of went full in with Marvel. And then the last time we kind of negotiated, um, I was feeling pretty burnt out, and so I just quoted like an outrageous price. Like, I'm worth this much money if you want me to be exclusive for a year.
Right.
And they're
Right.
like, you are not worth that much money. And I'm like, well, that's fair. But if you want me to keep working, we need a contract of some sort. So we settled for like a lower price, but I became non-exclusive, which
Mm.
I don't know too many people that have had that kind of opportunity at
Right.
Marvel where, you get paid okay, but also you're non-exclusive. And so what happened immediately after that is the pandemic hit,
Right.
and Marvel stopped making comics for a little while. And so I was just like, okay, well, now I'm going over to DC, I guess. And so I started to pick up jobs at DC
Mm.
because I was able to. And it was a rough time because I saw a lot of my friends at Marvel and at DC, frankly, that like were stuck. Like they had these
Yeah.
contracts where they're like, you can only work for us. By the way, we don't have a lot of work for you right now.
Right.
And it was really hard. And I was super fortunate in that position to be able to kind of do the work for both companies and the creator owned stuff. And because all this happened at the pandemic, and since then, I haven't seen any of these people. Like I
Hmm.
haven't gone like to a meeting in Hollywood for DC
Right.
Comics or to New York to Marvel, so it doesn't even feel like I'm doing anything wrong, because I'm not
You
entering
don't
these
have to
rooms.
face them. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, and also like the companies have changed over the years. Like back in the day, I think like if you write for Marvel, you just write for Marvel, and like it
Right.
would be bad if you went to DC, and vice versa.
Hmm.
Whereas now it's a bit friendlier between the companies,
Okay.
weirdly. And so I get put in the position where I have to say no. Like recently, like Marvel was like, "Hey, we're having like a big creative summit on Zoom, and like we're all going to talk about the stories for the next year. Please come and
Hmm.
join us." And I'm like, I can't. like I'm writing Batman at DC and like I know all their storylines.
Yeah.
Like I can't sit here and listen to your storylines and go, "Oh, that's something similar that's happening in Aquaman." Like I just can't.
Right. Right.
Like it just felt wrong, and so like
Hmm.
I ended up not going to it, and I just kind of like sent my little book report on what I'm doing in Daredevil, and like that was it.
Hmm.
So the uncomfortable situations are kind of like mostly just on me because
Hmm.
I myself feel awkward about
Right.
working at both companies at the same time and being privy to information that might affect my decisions subconsciously. Yeah, it's
Right.
weird. It's weird from that angle.
Yeah, I mean, and you're writing two pretty big iconic characters. They're like major characters. And I on one of your
Yeah.
Substacks recently, I think you had like Daredevil blanching tomatoes or something. And I was like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
maybe Daredevil and Batman can have like a cook-off. And like I was just like,
Oh,
I always want to have this like world where they like cross but not, you know. It's
that'd
just
be
it's,
amazing after years and years of people trying to get like a Batman Daredevil crossover, and then they do it, and
and
it's
it's
just
a
them
cook-off.
cooking.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Well,
That's
you see, you just being around you and like talking to you. When I saw that,
I
I'm like,
know.
oh, this would be so cool. And I was like, would it though? Yeah, I think fans would be pissed.
Oh, I mean, I think they actually love it. Whenever I make a joke about like, oh, I'm just gonna do like 12 issues of Batman just chilling out with his Robins, people are just like, please do that. I'm like, I don't know.
Well, I feel like, and so I think I had shared this with you when we talked with Matt. Like,
Yeah,
I typically don't read the major comic book characters a lot. Like
yeah,
I've read your
yeah,
Daredevil, of course, and I haven't done Batman quite yet, but like that's why I love Sex Criminals so much. And that's why I like really
yeah,
gravitate to a
yeah.
lot of those others. And of course I've read Matt's Hawkeye, but like I'm not like I haven't been following Batman since,
No,
the dawn of time. And that's, I really
it's yeah,
gravitate towards the other stories. And so I feel like seeing characters that you kind of know what happens. There's a villain and then there's a thing, and there's a really good way of telling those stories. And there are
yeah,
really some crazy, incredible runs of all of these characters. But seeing something kind of like a cook off or like them just chilling for a week in a penthouse somewhere and like
yeah,
throwing parties or whatever. That would be kind of interesting because it's not what you
yeah,
expect of characters. So
yeah. I mean, it's
again,
kind of
I'm
it's kind of the
probably not the
heart.
market for it though. So
Well, I
this is
mean, but
not
but you are
probably
you
it.
you, you are because those stories actually do really well. Like,
Mm.
I think like the Batman comics that run on Webtoons, which is kind of just all about like all the sidekicks and kind of their shenanigans and
Yes, yes, yes. Those are kind of
like
fun.
those do really really well. And like you talk about Matt's Hawkeye, like that's the heart of that, right? It's like it's him in an apartment
Right.
building,
Yes.
like kind of trying to live his life
With his
and
dog.
with his dog. Yeah, exactly. Lucky.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So I mean, there's definitely an audience for it because I mean I think
Hmm.
that's Matt's biggest hit of his career, apart from Sex Criminals,
Hmm.
which on paper shouldn't have been. Like it's
Yes.
like I always talk about his career where it's like,
Yes.
oh yeah, Matt, like started off doing indie stuff and he got into Marvel and he did these small titles. And he got bigger and bigger. He's doing X-Men, he's doing the big events, and he's
Yeah.
absolutely miserable. And then it all falls apart and they offer him Hawkeye and he does a Hawkeye and like no one cared about Hawkeye.
Yeah.
And then it became the biggest book of his career at Marvel. Like
Yeah.
it's a thing that sold the most, it did the best, that everyone dresses up as the characters. Like
Hmm.
I love that. Like what a great way to like not end your career at Marvel, but like transition out of Marvel. It's like, oh yeah,
Hmm.
screw it all. Here's Hawkeye. Oh, it's a hit.
Right.
I'm off. I'm doing Sex Criminals now and Odyssey and Satellite Sam and just having fun. Yeah.
I love that. And I also really loved your whole Applebee's story online.
Oh God, yeah.
And then, but more so, I loved the image of course, I always love the image of you and Matt, but like, of like writer of Hawkeye, and then you're like slash the guy who went viral on Applebee's, brought to you
Yep.
by.
What a weird, weird phase of my life.
Well, those are another one of your like, I guess I'll just engage and start typing to Applebee's like on
Yeah.
Facebook. Like
And
it's one
like,
of your ideas that you just.
but most of those jokes are always just kind of for my friends. Like I'll just do it
Mhm.
and I'll send my friends the link or I'll
Like
send them
screenshots,
like the
yeah.
screenshots. Yeah, that one took off a lot more than it had any right to.
Oh my gosh. Um and I was really curious because I haven't really gotten to talk to you like kind of one-on-one, and we just did like sex criminal dive when we
Yeah, yeah.
spoke. And so I didn't, and of course I've read all your like there's like clips about Chip and all this stuff. And I was just like curious though, like, because I know you're a journalist, or you worked at the paper and all of that, but
Yeah.
it's like I was curious, like from you as young Chip, your like love for comics, and maybe if there's a comic that made you realize you want to do comics versus like what was the first comic you read, but like what type of things do you like to read, and how has that changed, or did young Chip gravitate towards things that were like sex criminals, which there was nothing like sex
Yeah, I
criminals,
was
by the
gonna
way.
say.
I don't think there was anything ever like that. But
Yeah.
are you a
Yeah.
Batman kind of guy?
I mean, yeah, comics always felt like they were always around when I was a kid.
Yeah.
But I distinctly remember buying one specific one at like a 7-Eleven or something, which got me right into it. And it was a book in '84 called Secret Wars. And it was issue 7, and it was just like, it's all the heroes and all the villains of Marvel, and they were fighting on a planet for some untold powers, and like, just seeing all the characters all together like that,
Mhm.
and the interplay between them all. Because I was like, as a kid, I was a huge fan of soap operas. Like, I
Oh,
love
which
soap
ones?
operas. General Hospital was like the number one.
I
Another
used to
World
watch
was up
General
there.
Hospital too.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. You're probably younger than me.
No,
Um,
not much.
so I'm like Frisco Felicia
Yep,
days,
Frisco Felicia
Duke,
days.
Power
Yep,
Scorpio,
yep, yep.
So
Anna with
like
the
the
scar.
Anna with the scar, like the WSB, like people always forget this, but in the '80s, like there was some like wacky, cool stuff happening in soap operas, like real spy stuff and world-ending
Especially
things.
Frisco and Felicia. Like he died and he wasn't alive, but he was in a prison somewhere. Like,
Oh God, and like she was like a princess
yeah,
popper,
yeah.
like there's so many cool ass things that happen. Um, and I was hooked. I was hooked as a kid. Like I love that stuff.
And was
And
this just like you watching it on your own, or was this other people influencing you? Because it was because of my older cousins that I watched it. I wasn't like
yeah.
8 and was like, "Oh, General Hospital."
Well, it started when I was like 5, I guess, 5 or 6, and I would watch them with my mom. And
Okay.
my parents always tell me the story of Dad coming home from work, and I ran up to him, and I'm just like, Johnny's dead, Johnny's dead. He's like, what? Who's Johnny? You grab him by the shoulder. Who's Johnny? And Mom's like, oh, it's like a character on a soap opera, which I guess I forgot this part. It was like Ray Liotta's character on a soap opera.
Oh.
Um, at that point, my dad was like, oh, maybe he shouldn't be watching these. But I would record them on my VCR, and
Hmm.
when I was at school, and I'd watch them after after school, and I was really deep into it. And like, so the Marvel stuff, especially like X-Men at that time, which all
Okay.
played out like a soap opera, because
Okay.
they were. I mean, it continued from like issue to issue to issue
And
with
never ended.
never ended, just like
Yeah.
soap operas. The main
Yes.
difference is soap opera characters age and comic
Right,
characters
right, right,
didn't
right.
really. Uh, so those are the ones that really like that hooked me into the Marvel stuff when I was a kid. And I just bought all the Marvel books I could.
Hmm.
At DC, there was a few things that I would pick up once in a while, like Flash and Batman were kind of my big ones. Um, and yeah, then I never thought about it as an actual career
Hmm.
because it just seemed too big. I would like do my fan sketches, and I'd go to shows, and I'd show creators, and they pat me on the head and send me on my way. Um, but yeah, once I got into college, I went to school for illustration, and the program basically kind of really kind of tried to beat comics out of you. Like a lot of us went into the program thinking we are going to be drawing comics, and they were just like, nope, no fantasy, no comics here. You are editorial
Okay.
illustrators, and you are fine artists, and
Oh,
um, yeah. And I went to the same schools like Jeff Lemire, Ramon Perez, Kagan
okay.
McLeod, like, and all of us kind of had the same kind of thing where they're like, no, comics are bad,
Comics bad.
and now they invite us to go give lectures to the students
Of
about how comics
course.
are good. So like on the other end of that, I just did illustration work, and all of us did, and we kind of did our own little comics on the side for
Hmm.
fun. Um, and really, it was always just like a weird little side gig where I'd set up my shop at like a comic convention, sell my black and white zine style books, and that was kind of that was all I ever aspired to.
Yeah.
Um, and
So
then
you did
Sex
go to
Criminals happened.
conventions, and you did go to conventions pretty early on, like as a young um
Yeah, yeah, and like,
teenager or
well,
even
not
younger.
not teenager. Like I was in my 20s,
Okay.
and I did a comic strip for like a school newspaper, which was kind of like this kind of dark adult kind of black humor thing. And well, once I had enough of those, I could put them in a comic. I'm like, well, I'm gonna make a comic because Kagan was doing that already. He did a book
Mm-hmm.
called Infinite Kung Fu, which was awesome. And so I kind of followed his lead, and we would kind of do the shows together. And
Mm-hmm.
I created the character Chip Zdarsky, which wasn't my real name, but like I didn't
Mm-hmm.
want I didn't want my newspaper work to touch
Yes.
the comic stuff, so I made it
Understand.
separate. And yeah, I just did that. I put out like a book a year, maybe, and then just like dumb funny things I'd put online whenever I thought of them up, and eventually comics for the newspapers. Until one day, yeah, just chatting with Matt, I'm just like, let's just do something together. Let's just have some fun because
Mm-hmm.
I was getting tired of newspapers and he was getting tired of Marvel, so it was like, and that's what kind of set everything in motion. And now I write Batman.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
so
And so this is
stupid.
what you tell people who said, how do I write Batman? And that's the advice. Well, you got to come up with something like Sex Criminals and just hit it
Yeah,
out of the
yeah, just do
park.
that. Just do that.
Obviously, just do that.
Super easy. But it was like years and years of like the newspaper job helped so much
Mm.
because with the newspaper, there were daily deadlines for that
Yes,
gig. So
I was
whether I'm writing
imagining.
something, drawing something, doing cartoons, doing videos, like you had to churn out stuff quickly. You had to make it short and concise. Like I remember the first time I submitted a piece that was going to be me drawing and writing it, like it was going to be this big infographic kind of funny thing
Yeah.
for like Thanksgiving or whatever. And I remember the editor just being like, "What are you doing, man?" And he just kind of went through and he just started cutting, cutting, cutting. He's like, "Where's the joke here? Cut, cut, cut." And like at the time, I'm like, "Oh, my precious words! How could you do this to me? Don't you know I'm an artiste?" Then looking at it, I'm just like, "Oh, of course." Like as a newspaper, like you have like
Right.
5 seconds to catch someone's attention. You're gonna
Yeah.
lose it with like all your intense verbiage. So I mean, that job taught me how to use all the computer programs I would need to create books. Taught me all the
Yeah.
skills I would need to create those books. So by the time Matt and I started doing Sex Criminals, like I had all the skills to at least kind of get his vision across
Hmm.
of that story, and it worked. So
Yeah,
yeah,
obviously. And I love that because I think that resonates with me from like a foundation building. You have a discipline and you had a
yeah,
routine where like even if because I think with when I've spoken with other artists and things like that maybe didn't have like the technical background or just
hmm
started to do art on their own and maybe even didn't go to school for it necessarily. And it's like, oh, well, if I'm not feeling the inspiration or if I'm having the
yeah,
writer's block and all of that. And like, but when you're conditioned in an environment like a paper, you don't really have a choice because the
no,
paper is going to print with or without you. And so does that then plug into now with the Batmans and the Daredevils and like those because those have deadlines. Yes, like the big
yeah.
DC and Marvel, it's very deadline driven, I imagine. And so does the writer's block thing affect you at all? Or are you because you're so good with deadlines, like you just make it happen?
It very, very rarely. Once in a while. Usually, if I have too much time for a thing, then writer's block hits.
Ah,
Which is the weird thing where it's like, oh, if I have
okay.
months to think of a story, like I won't be able to think of anything. If I had
Oh,
2 days to think of a story, I'm just like, all right, where's my coffee? Let's figure this out. Boom, boom, boom.
yeah.
Um,
So you're
and
good
I have
under
to,
pressure.
yeah, yeah. And it's like, I've said this before to my wife who, worries about my workload. Like right now, I've managed to get my projects down from 13 to 10, which is good. And my wife's like, well, your life would be so much better if you got it down to like 5. I'm like, well, no, because I'd spend the same amount of time on those 5 as I am on the 10. Like I'd just be spinning my wheels more on the
Right,
5,
right, right,
weirdly
right.
enough. Um, yeah. And also, like, the newspaper stuff also uh, meant that I have trouble working in silence. Like I'm so used to writing
Oh,
in a
like in
newsroom
a newsroom.
with people
Yeah.
kind of going around and making noise at like the pandemic. That was that was one of the really bad parts for me, which is like normally I would go to cafes to write,
Okay.
like have the sound of people around. So I started to like, you know, going on YouTube and just like cafe sounds. So I just have like,
I
you
think you'd
know,
ask your wife, like, hey, can you just come in and rustle papers every 30 seconds
yeah,
and like,
yeah.
type?
And it's funny. My wife's the opposite. Like she can't do anything if I, make the slightest noise.
That's
So
me. Yeah.
yeah, well, during a big chunk of the pandemic, we worked like 2 feet away from each other, so that made it a little difficult at times. But yeah.
Oh my gosh. No, I kind of resonate with her. Like I never understood people who could go to cafes to study. I was like, what? How could you study there and
Yeah.
focus? There's so much distraction and like that noise. I need like complete silence. So I always
Yeah.
found that
Yeah.
fascinating, but it makes sense if that's what you're kind of used to. But I was
Hmm.
curious about the balancing of time because I was like, wow, you're doing so many projects and you decided to do chip class and a newsletter and all
Yeah.
these other things. And I'm like, why are you doing this to yourself? Because I look at it too.
What holes am I plugging in my life?
Well, I just know that it's a lot, right? And
Yeah.
I don't know anything about creating comics, but I've had the privilege of speaking with so many creators, and I know what a toll it can take from both the writing and the artist standpoint. And then
Yeah.
now, like you're doing both too. Like it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. I'm not smart.
yeah, I don't know about that, but maybe, and maybe your wife would agree. I think we would get along, by the way.
Oh yeah.
That perhaps it's as you get older, you'll realize that 10 needs to go to 5 because your body will
Yeah.
basically tell you, like, yeah, that you're done.
Yeah. I'm
Even
definitely
though,
I'm at that stage. I'm turning down everything. Like basically what is on my plate is all that's going to be on my plate
yeah,
until they disappear and disappear and disappear until I'm down to I've already said like one. If I'm doing one
right.
thing, two things, then I'll be happy and I'll kind of get a semblance of a life back. A lot of it is just like I don't know. It feels like I'm like feel like I grew up in the depression or something where like I have to like hold on to everything, but it's the freelancer mentality of like um make hay while the sun
You
shines,
don't
where
know
it's
when
like
your next, yeah,
you really don't like
yeah,
people often forget that they'll just be like, oh, you're doing great, you're like writing Batman, whatever. I'm like, yeah, but what about tomorrow? Like so many freelance careers, especially in comics,
hmm
you go through the list of characters, fans are just like, oh, I'm kind of tired of this guy's stuff.
hmm
You're done. Like
yeah,
comics is littered with people like that. No matter how big you get, nobody lasts forever in this industry. It's just not a thing.
hmm
I've seen it happen with friends, with people whose work I admire. Like sometimes they lose a step. Sometimes the fans just don't react to that style
yeah,
anymore, and then they have to figure out what's next. If they go teach art or try and write a novel or whatever. Um, I always have it in the back of my head. I'm just like, okay, this is gonna end. And
hmm
I always have the number of 5 years, but I always keep resetting it. I'm
but
just
then
like,
every year it's 5 years still, or does it
yeah,
actually
yeah.
come
So
down?
so far, but I'm just like, okay, maybe now it's like three. Like I can
Mm.
feel the end a little bit.
Okay.
Um, just in kind of like the changing of fandom, of
hmm
discussions, of what kind of work is more in vogue, and I'm just like, okay, all right, you can see it in the horizon, you have to accept it. If you don't accept it, you're going to be the weird old angry guy, just being like, when I was doing comics, they were real comics. I'm like, no, that's not it. That's not it, man. Like
Right.
sometimes your stuff is now just old and out of date and you gotta accept it and be like, well, that was a good career.
I see. I
You
see. Do
did it.
your peers feel, do you, because I know you all talk like, because it's this empathy group, right? Like it's this, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, we know what each other goes through. And like I said, just because I've been so fortunate to speak with so many people, like, do you feel like there is that kind of sense because you're all of the same, quote unquote, most of your friends are in the same generation. It's not like,
Yeah.
not that you don't know people out of the generation, but like, do
Yeah.
you all
Yeah.
kind of feel that like, oh, okay, these are the last few we're kind of coming on, or what's the next thing? And like,
Yeah. There's always the what's the next thing. And sometimes the what's the next thing is still in comics. It's like, okay, I can't do this anymore, but maybe I can do this in comics. I'm
yeah.
like, okay, yeah, that's possible. Um, I think for the most part, the people I gravitate towards have a good understanding of their position in an industry at any given time. Um, So yeah, I'm not too worried about like, Matt or Kelly Sue or Kieran or Jamie or Ed. Like, they'll be fine. Like they might have hurt feelings. Like I can see
Mhm.
all of us having hurt feelings at some point when somebody's just like,
Yeah.
oh, their stuff's so dated. You know.
Oh, it makes me
Yeah,
cringe
like
a little
I know it's even
because
it's
it makes
weird for
me feel dated too.
well, yeah,
I'm
of
with you all,
course.
Like,
But like, I have the thing now where, if I run into like a fan or a reader and like they'll say something like, "Oh, I've been reading your stuff since I was a kid." I'm like, "What? I've only been doing this for a couple of years." But then you do the math, you're like, "Oh, yeah,
oh, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Yeah,
yeah." Like,
people have grown up with you, right?
Yeah, like one of my favorite things before the pandemic going to shows was like um adults talking about how they used to read Sex Criminals in high school and they traded with their friends and they like, it was the secret bad book they
Yeah, of
weren't supposed to
course.
read. I'm just like, you're an adult, like you're a grown man with a full beard and you're telling me this. Like, that's weird to me. But yeah, you have to accept it. And you have to understand that culture changes and things change
Yeah.
and what's in favor is no longer in favor and
Hmm.
for good or bad. Like, sometimes it'll be like a hot new thing. I'll be like, I don't get this at all. But I'm like,
Hmm.
okay, well, it's not for me, so that's fine.
Right.
I'm not going to try and emulate it because I also don't want to be the old guy who's just like, you know, sitting in the chair backwards
Yeah.
with a baseball cap on, like,
No,
hey kids, like the Steve Buscemi kind of meme from 30
we
Rock.
always,
What's up,
yeah, we
fellow
always,
teens?
we always say it's like you don't want to be like the 48-year-old in the nightclub with the 17, 18-year-olds and being like, yeah, I'm hip and like trying to
No,
like hang out with the teenagers. It's just like that's not a
no,
good look. It's
no,
never a good
no,
look. Like it just
no.
yeah, step
There's
away.
no way.
Step away.
Exactly.
Yes, I feel you. I feel you.
Yeah.
But yeah, that I feel like you also like and the way that you see like Kelly Sue and Matt, they were doing
Yeah.
other things as
Oh
well
yeah.
and having so many creative outlets. And I think those of you like yourself who are so creative, there's probably just going to be like Chip Class 32 and we'll have
God willing.
we'll
God
have
willing.
we'll have so many versions of it. But I think speaking to you more, and then of course, like reading your newsletter, it's really funny and you're funny and all that. But like you always say things like, well, everyone who knows me knows I hate this or I hate this person. And this is my nemesis and da da da. But I feel like there's a lot of gratitude there for
Yeah.
like, I know that this is a moment in my career where I'm doing all these amazing things that like people are looking up to me and like you're kind of I guess I do this when I coach and teach, like I'm saying things to myself versus
Yeah.
like just for the students. And I feel like maybe that's like kind of a bit of your tone. A lot of it is very much like, I'm very grateful for what's happening right now, but I know
Yeah.
this is whatever. But I really like, I love to hear about all my creator friends and their nemesises.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, a lot of that is and it's a hard balance to strike. Like when I was starting out, I'm playing a character. Like, Steve Murray's
Mhm.
my real name. Chip Zdarsky was a
Yes.
character I created who's like a sad sack. Like his whole backstory was a sad sack. When I worked at the student press, like I interviewed Chip Zdarsky, like Steve Murray interviews Chip Zdarsky about his comics, and it was just like a sad look into this like guy's weird basement
Yeah.
life. Um, and so for forever in comics, kind of working my way up, I played the sad sack. I'm just like, oh, I'm a loser, blah 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 blah, and then one day I realized, oh, you can't do that. Like you've hit a point where it's just like it doesn't even ring true.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, like I at one point I was going to do a stunt at a comic convention. Um, where I was going to have a panel called "Why I Should Write Batman," and it was going to be me giving a PowerPoint presentation about all of my ideas and like basically trying to get the job of writing Batman, and that was going to be my Comic Con panel. And I submitted it, and they're like, "Oh yeah, this would be great." I'm like, "Yeah," and then I stopped and I was like, "I'm writing Spider-Man. Like, what am I doing? Like, I'm not." Like it was very conceivable that I could end up writing Batman. It wasn't a joke, and now I am writing Batman. I know it's weird, but like so I couldn't play that kind of like
Right.
that fictional lovable loser thing forever. So like it's
Well,
definitely more
once you start winning Eisners and
yeah.
being nominated all the time, and
It's a weird thing to
kind of
say
like,
that like
oh, poor Chip.
I know I can't be like, oh geez, look at me, I'm so sad and I can't get anything done while achieving a
Yeah.
level of success, whether earned or not. I'm in the position.
Right, right.
Yeah, that's hard. So like, a lot of comic creators like to kind of play along and they'll poke fun at me and just like, oh, I can't believe Chip's writing Batman. What's this world coming to? And none of that's mean spirited. And me taking these weird kind of comical pot shots is also not mean spirited. It's just
Of course not.
it's me trying to maintain a weird outsider status of like I'm the lucky loser that keeps tripping into success somehow. Um,
It's always a lot of fun though to
yeah.
hear about it too, because like I talked to Brian came on and he was like,
Okay.
Ed Brubaker, and he just like it's so funny. And he
Brian,
goes,
Brian is like, oh, there's nobody in comics that deserves success more than Brian. But also, I love his attitude about everything. I remember the first time I met him was at like an Image Comics expo, and the Saga at that point it was already huge. It was massive, and
yeah.
he's just so quiet and unassuming and just really kind. And I remember telling him, I was like, "Oh yeah, I was in a comic shop, and I picked up the Saga hardcover, like the big hardcover. It was like the one with like the image of the girl breastfeeding, and on the back there was
Mhm.
nothing. There was no text on the back. This thing was like seal wrapped, no text on it except for his name, Fiona's name, and the word Saga. No description, nothing.
Oh.
And I remember saying to him, like, I saw that in the comic shop. And I was like, that's such a fucking baller move to just be like, no, this is Saga. You don't know what it is? Buy it. Buy it and
Mhm.
find out. I'm not here to sell it to you. And I remember he just went like, oh yeah, it came time to write the stuff on the back, and I'm just so bad at it, and I just didn't know what to do. So we just left it blank. I'm just like, what? I love it. It's not even a conscious choice to be fucking badass. He's just like the coolest guy making the coolest thing. He's just like, oh, I've really struggled with that, so we just left it blank. Like,
I love
oh,
it.
that was one of the funniest things I've ever heard. Yeah,
That's
he's
good.
so great. He's so him and Fiona are just
Mm.
like what a power duo
Yes.
there in comics. Like
Yes.
they're just amazing.
Yes. No, agreed,
Yeah.
agreed, agreed. I think but it's just always so much fun because then I know whenever you have a nemesis or whatever, it means that you're
Yeah.
probably one really good friends or,
Yeah.
like that. But like I think one of my favorite things is your peer reviews of public domain or the
Yeah.
quotes.
Yeah.
That is, I was like, I told my
Uh,
husband Oscar, I'm like, please just sit here and read this with me. Please watch Chip Class. I'm like making him see all these
yeah.
things. And he loves comics, so this is not like a far
Okay,
stretch. But
so it's not a hard sell.
he's not on social media, but
Okay,
so
yeah.
that's why I'm like,
Smart.
okay, look at that. Yeah, look at this. And but yeah, I think I think was it Jonathan Hickman? I'm trying to remember now, the one that's just like, no, or
No,
like,
that
yeah,
would be Jonathan, which is probably
that was one of my favorites.
that's probably the closest to the truth ones. No.
I
Yeah,
love that one. That was like my favorite for sure. I
I
was like, yes, so funny.
I ran them by everyone too, just so they didn't come out of nowhere and make them look like dicks. But yeah. But again, it was just too much fun to not do it.
So talk to me about public domain.
No.
Perfect. All right, moving
So
on.
bad at selling things. Yeah, so Public Domain is the book that I am writing and drawing and coloring and lettering and designing at
Mhm.
Image. Um, I host a podcast called co-host one called Manga Splaining, where
Mhm.
I have three friends who are in the manga industry or are experts, and I didn't know much about manga going into the podcast,
Yeah.
and it's all about them teaching me. We read a book every week, and they answer all my questions, and slowly are turning me into a manga expert. But during the process, I really noticed that like so much of manga outside of like kind of the big hit kind of
Yeah.
genre stuff is specifically about things that the creator just wants to write about. Like there'll be one just about jazz, and one about like radio DJs, one about cooking. Like they're very specific. Ping pong, like of all things.
Okay.
Um, and I just love because there's not a lot of that in kind of North American comics where you just kind of like, well, I'm interested in this subject, so I'm just gonna make a comic about it. It's mostly just like, well, what's gonna sell? Is it vampires? Is it superheroes?
Mhm.
Is it future stuff, fantasy? Um, whereas it gets really specific and tailored to the creator's interests. And I was like, I had the moment where I was like, well, what's my interest? Like, what's the thing that I love outside of comics that I would do a book about? And I have friends who are into like the history of electronic music or the history of the world, like all these kind of things. Um, and then I had the sad realization that all I really am interested in is comics. So I'm like, oh God, I guess but I'm really into the history of comics and like the
Okay.
behind the scenes stuff. And so I'm like, I guess I'm doing a comic about that. And then I kind of dug in, and so Public Domain is about a family where the dad was responsible for co-creating the world's kind of biggest superhero character, which is in all the movies and TV shows and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And as these stories often go, he doesn't own it. Like, he lives a decent life, um, but he was the artist, so he doesn't get the credit he really
Mm-hmm.
deserves. And so his son um, really feels strongly that he's been ripped off,
Right.
and it's all about kind of the fight to get him acknowledged and to uh, get his rights back. And then I'll spoil the initial twist, or the twist at the end of the first issue, is that he has the rights. He's always had the rights. He just didn't realize it. So it
Mm-hmm.
becomes a family drama about
Yeah.
how much are you going to put into fighting for your creation. What are your responsibilities to your family, to the creation, how that intersects with kind of corporate culture, and yeah, it quickly kind of becomes a book about relationships, and business and comics, and
And
yeah.
what is the choice to do all aspects of it? Because I did that once with a documentary and I'm like, never again. Like, I will kill myself first before I do that. Like, I find like, oh my
Well,
gosh, wow,
what
because you
was it
can
about
do
that?
everything.
Yeah,
So the reason I did it,
yeah,
because it was about my father. So it
okay,
was very personal to me.
yeah.
And I didn't feel that an editor, because the thing I hate the most is the actual editing part. Like, I'm like,
Oh,
if
okay.
I could just have an editor that was like reading my mind and then it could just look like what I don't like, the frame by frame stuff. And I'm all
Oh, yeah,
self-taught. So this is not my industry at all. This is not what I've
yeah,
done.
yeah,
And so I did it and it was a lot and it took a lot out of me, but and I feel good about it. It did very well. It's it's out
good. Yeah,
there on
yeah, yeah,
Amazon, and we won awards, all it was satisfying and gratifying, and it was
yeah,
for my father and his legacy, and it's there now in
yeah.
perpetuity, right, to be celebrating. But and I did it that way because of I felt very close to the story and that I had to tell it a
Hmm.
certain way. So I narrated, edited, right. Yeah. And I'm
Yeah.
like, never again. And it just, and I see something like this where you have so much connectivity at your disposal. Whereas, of course, if you were just starting out, you don't know anyone, you're like, I guess I got to do it all. But
Yeah.
um, I just feel like you have so much going on. Like, that was kind of a big undertaking yet again.
Yeah, I mean, like, part of it is like, after Sex Criminals, I told myself, never again. I'm never drawing a book again. Like, it's just too
Hmm.
much work. But as
I
time goes
actually remember
on,
you said that.
yeah, as time goes on, I also recognize that comic artists especially have what I probably called it on the podcast last time, short-term emotional memory, where we forget the feeling. Like, I
Hmm.
forget the feeling of how hard it was to draw that issue in that time frame. And
Yeah.
then by the time another script showed up from Matt, I'd be like, oh, this is fun. I can't wait to draw this. And at the end, I'm just like, never again. But like, it just kind of keeps going. And so I
Yeah.
definitely hit the point where I was like, I knew I wanted to write and draw a book again. And a lot of it's just kind of like, it's been so long since I've had full control over something.
Okay.
Like, working with Matt was great, obviously, but also it wasn't fully mine. And while I enjoyed the kind of the back and forth with Matt, it's like, oh yeah, like, I would do this differently, or I would do that differently. Not
Right. Right.
better, but
Yeah, it's just
differently.
the
And you're
collaborative
trying to
process. Yeah.
and you're trying to like, and I was always so worried about stepping on his toes. Like, if he called for a specific angle or whatever of the drawing and I felt it didn't work, like, I would spiral. I'd just be like, oh, how am I gonna tell him I need to change this slightly?
Yeah.
And then I'd build up the courage and I'd tell him, he'd be like, oh, what? I don't even remember that. Yeah, of course. Like, because as an artist, you live with it longer than the writer does.
Right. Of
Matt
course.
would
Of
write those
course.
scripts in like a few days, and I would spend like a month and a half
Right.
drawing it 8 hours a day. So for me, it's just like, oh my God, like, I'm right into this. So the idea of just kind of having more freedom on it, being able to decide at the last second, like, oh, I'm going to delete this panel. Yeah, I don't need
Mhm.
this. Or, oh, I need to make this bigger. Oh, I need to cut all the text, add more text, whatever. Like,
Yeah.
all those decisions, the fact that they felt to me felt really good.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, it's not smart because it takes a long time to draw. Like,
Yeah.
drawing the book is like a full-time job on top of
Hmm.
writing the 9 other books.
Yes.
So from a business standpoint, it makes no sense.
Well, it does, because you can do it all. It's not like you're this mediocre artist that was like, well, whatever. I mean, you're very good at all of it. It's just that
thanks,
capacity wise, I was like, wow, okay, as if you weren't doing Batman and Daredevil and still, like just, and your newsletter and CHIPCLASS. I was like, what is happening? How are you cloned? Like, how many chips are running around the house there? Like, what's going on?
It's not going to last forever. I mean, a lot of this too is the timing of it, because I started talking to Substack like a year ago or whatever, about what their whole deal was going to look like.
Okay.
And at that point, I was like, oh man, like public domain, I was going to start doing it in like 2023, 2024, like after I kind of got through a bunch of Marvel stuff. But when they made that offer, I'm just like, well, of course I have to anchor it with something that I'm writing and drawing. Like, oh, this is me back to drawing. Like, come and check out my comic. So that accelerated that timetable a lot during a period where I was already too busy. And then I got offered Batman. And so I was like, oh, and like the first call I had with DC, where it was the editor in chief and the editor, and they're like, hey, we want to jump on a Zoom call with you. Do you have time? I'm like, yeah, of course. I remember turning to my wife and I was like, they're going to offer me Batman. I just know it. And I don't know what to do.
You're going to make me an offer I can't refuse.
I know. And I almost started crying. And she's like, just go with your instinct. You can't take on more work. You know that. I'm like, I know. And I got on the call and I basically said, no. I'm just like, I can't do this. Like, I just signed with Substack. And they're like, yeah, we know. That's why we need you as a writer, because James, also the current writer of Batman, just signed with Substack, and so he's quit Batman. I'm like, well, because he's smart.
Yeah.
And so ultimately it came down to the fact that like it was too much of an opportunity, and it's a character I love, and I had the story in mind, so I was just like, well, I've got to do it. Make hay while the sun shines. So doing that, starting that while doing full issues of public domain and the Marvel stuff in Image and Comixology, it was just like, yeah. Last year was pretty rough. This year's rough, but last year was really rough.
Wow.
Yeah.
I know. I'm watching it all. I'm going, wow, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, and now, but do you feel a little bit over that hump? Like you're on, is it issue 5 of public domain, or are we on?
Yeah,
5?
so issue 5's done, which means I'm starting work on the second arc, so there's a break between the two. But I'm not as far ahead as I'd like to be. Like I'm in the middle of writing it right now, and it's like, okay, got to come back. If I leave it too long, I'm going to lose readers, and I'm not super concerned about that aspect because I've been making it for my Substack, and Substack kind of basically paid for it. So like anything, even if I'm like, as long as I'm not losing money on it, I'll still keep making it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the Batman stuff has been going smoothly, thank God.
Okay.
The Marvel stuff is like we're in a bit of a wind down phase, so it's like, okay, I can Stillwater, I've got a couple more issues and it's out the door.
Yes.
Kaptara, I've got one more issue, it's out the door.
I just have a feeling like the next time I talk to you, so I picked up these 2 other things because I
can't. I've turned down my dream jobs from Marvel. I turned down three titles that were my dream titles from Marvel last year, and at that point I realized, oh yeah, okay, you're done. Like when you start turning those down, it's like that's a sign that you need to take a break.
Okay, well, and they may represent themselves anyway. You never know, right?
Yeah, they may, and if they don't, it's okay. Like I've had a good run, and I don't know whatever the next thing is going to be beyond this. If it's just me making little comics for myself or what, but yeah, it's a funny life, and again, like knowing when to step off the stage and knowing when your time is kind of done. It's just like I think that's kind of an important thing.
Interesting. I just don't feel like it's in 3 years, like you keep saying. Like I get what you're saying, but at the same time, I feel like there's so much creative there, and you've got an audience, sir. So
I mean, even if I have the audience, like it could be it's just in 3 years. I'm just like, well, I just don't want to do this.
You need a break. Yeah. 100%. I know you've got to go soon, so I just had a question about the whole like. When I started this podcast, I also separated from quote unquote Sifu Mimi Chan because I was like, oh, I have to be a different person because I'm going to talk politics and I'm also going to be telling people how I really feel about stuff and and I'm this person and I'm a professional over here. But I mean, I didn't go as deep as actually getting a real pseudonym and changing my name, because I
Oh, I
really
highly
like
recommend
people
it.
kind
Yeah.
of know. But I was curious, like, how does that really work? Because originally you said you created this character, right? And then
Yeah.
now like you've really become that character, or do like your close friends all call you Steven? Or because
Yeah.
I hear a lot of people call you Chip, and then like I don't know, like how
It's
does
it's
that work?
it's very strange, and it's gone through different kind of highs and lows over the year. So like when I first started doing the Chip stuff, it was a full-on character. Like I had a cowboy hat and fake glasses. I do comic
Of course you
conventions.
did.
And it was a secret from most people, really. Um, but then what happened is I started to do more work at the newspaper as like a columnist and started to have a name for myself. And so I was only online as Chip, and then all of a sudden I had to be online as Steve for the paper. And I became more known in Toronto and Canada as Steve Murray because
Okay.
I was like a national columnist. Like I
Yeah.
wrote an advice column. I did like stunts. I ran for mayor, like all these like weird little things where I'd be recognized
Yeah.
around the city
Yeah.
as Steve.
Mm-hmm.
And then off to the side, I just had a secret life doing comics as Chip.
Like a
And then
superhero.
somebody wrote a story about the studio I was in, and they kind of outed me a little bit. Like they were just like,
Mm.
you know, Chip Zdarsky, who also works for the newspaper, is Steve Murray. I was like, fuck, they knew I didn't want that, but they did it
Yeah.
anyways.
Yeah.
And I discovered at the next comic convention I did as Chip, people who I kind of casually knew as Chip just start calling me Steve,
Oh, okay.
like to prove that they knew me in a
Hmm.
weird way. Like it was
Yeah.
really off-putting. I'm just like, I was like, fucker, like you've known me as Chip for 5 years now. You called me
Yeah.
Chip.
Yeah.
And now you're just like, oh, I find it hard to call you Chip now that I read that your name is Steve. Like, that's not how that goes. So I remember being upset about it back in the day.
Yeah.
And so the Chip stuff kind of got really quiet, and the Steve stuff kind of took off, and then Sex Criminals happened, and the reverse happened.
Yeah.
And it hit a weird point where I did San Diego Comic Con, uh, maybe it was 6, 7 years ago, and I was allowed to bring a guest. So I brought my brother, who's like a big nerd, and at one point we were at the show, and he was talking to somebody about 20 feet away from me while I was sketching and signing, and he turned to get my attention, and he kept going like, Steve, 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 and my head didn't move, and
Yeah.
then he went Chip, and then my head looked up because it was context based. It's like if I'm at a
Mm-hmm.
comic convention,
Right.
I don't even respond to the name Steve. I'm just like
Mm-hmm.
it's like a totally different thing.
Yeah.
Whereas if like I'm hanging out with my family and friends and
Of
I hear
course.
someone say Chip, I'm like I probably wouldn't look up because
Right.
that's not me in that moment.
Okay.
So it's weird. Like my wife, my wife refuses to call me Chip anywhere. Absolutely. Like she helped me at some comic conventions when things were kind of spiraling out of control.
Okay.
She'd show up and she'd help like sell stuff and manage lines and everything. And those were the periods where she had to call me Chip, or else people would be confused. And it was like I could see it broke her brain a little bit. And some people call her Mrs. Zdarsky, and that would really set her off. Like, no, I'm not married to Chip Zdarsky. He's a loser.
That cowboy wearing tool.
Yeah. No, please, no. So
I
yeah,
just find
it's all
it's
context.
fascinating to me. Yeah.
It's very weird, and it's all context based, and like the lines blurred because it used to be I give interviews as Chip and they'd just be like full on fictions, absolute jokes the whole time.
Right.
And now it's like
Yeah.
I'm doing this as Chip in which I'm talking like genuinely about things, and it's like that took a while to get used to. But
Mm.
you can't just be the goofball forever if you're building something, you know? It's weird.
Yeah. 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 No, I just thank you for answering, because I just was like, how does that even work? Because I know a lot of authors, writers, and for novels have pseudonyms, but then it's
Yeah.
not like they show up as that. I don't know. I don't even know. I don't know how
It's
any of it
yeah.
works. It's so weird to
I
me.
actually I recommend it to almost everyone now.
Yeah.
Especially with the rise in kind of online hate and doxing and horrible stuff. Like
Yeah.
I've said that
Yeah.
before to Marvel. Like when you bring in new staff, whether it be an assistant editor or whoever, the first day should be like, okay, what's your new name?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I missed missed that chance because
Yeah, I know it's hard. And
Like everybody kind of knows me now as who I am, and now I missed that chance. And I didn't really go too extreme. I just dropped my professional title and I just put it back in because I'm like, now I'm like, just fuck it. Like I want everyone to know that this person hates these people and feels this way, and I'm like a simple, social justice, and I'm like, that's it. We're going all in. Now it's over. Like I just dropped everything, but. Oh my gosh, like I was like, oh man, I missed a window, but I don't know if it would have worked for me anyway.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's, I don't think it necessarily works for everyone, but I do recommend it to anyone, especially going into
right.
Like starting out in the creative
anonymity
industry.
To begin with. It's really good. Not that I'm like famous or people know me, but I feel like people already know me enough of me.
And also, I think it helps your ego a bit too. Like, like the Chip Zdarsky in quotes successes aren't my successes. They're kind of a character success. So it kind of keeps me a little bit kind of level.
Grounded. Okay. I feel like your wife does a good job of that anyway.
Well, yeah, and that helps. Like, the fact that, when I go in and talk to my wife, like, she thinks my job's ridiculous, and she's right. Like, there's one point where I remember going into the house and I was just like, I was so upset. I was just like, oh God damn it. I just got off the phone with like the Spider office, and I can't fucking use Doctor Strange because he's at the other end of the multiverse. And she's just like, can you hear yourself? Like, that's not a problem. That's one of the stupidest things I've ever heard. I'm like, okay, yeah, you're right. But also it deflects the negativity too. Like if someone thinks Chip Zdarsky's a fucking loser and I hate his stuff and I hate him, I take it less to heart because I'm like, oh yeah, I hate that guy too.
You take it less personal.
It's true. Yeah.
Wow.
You kind of keep it compartmentalized as a kind of this character. It's like,
right.
I get it. Yeah, that's fine.
Do your friends in the comics industry that you've known a long time speak to you as Chip or Steve or both? Chip.
Okay, so if anyone calls me,
literally in the worlds, like your family and home, and okay.
If anyone calls me, if anyone in comics calls me Steve, they're trying to say something. Like they're trying, like they're being a dick. Like they're trying to seem more important than they are in my life, Steve. Or something. Yeah. Oh, how dare you? Yeah.
With the hair toss and all. Yeah. I would find that really weird. That to be like it's so you're making assumptions and just being presumptive, right? I don't know.
Yeah. It's very strange, and it like I said, all my really good friends in comics call me Chip, and my enemies call me Steve.
There we go. And that's it. This is the title of this episode. It's like, is he Chip or Steve?
Oh God, no, don't please.
No, not at all. Well, I'm gonna let you go, as otherwise we will definitely spiral in tangent, as there's a lot of things I do want to ask you that don't have to do with comics. Maybe next time.
Part 2. There you go.
And chit chat with me. But it's always a pleasure. And being as crazy busy as you are, I am just super grateful to have this conversation with you. So thanks for coming on and spending time and making me laugh and hanging out.
Thanks for having me.
All right, until next time. That's all for today's episode. Thanks for listening to the Sifu Mimi Chan Show. You can become a patron of the show at patreon.com/Sifu Mimi Chan to help keep this podcast going. Follow me and interact on social media at Sifu Mimi Chan on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook.